Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Are you trying to conceive after loss, or maybe thinking about trying to conceive after loss? I know this journey can feel so incredibly heavy, lonely, and overwhelming at times. The hopes, the fears, the grief. It can really feel like no one truly understands what you are actually carrying. And that's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a nurturing, flourishing community for women navigating this tender season. Here, you are not just joining a group. You are stepping into a space where your feelings are held, your experiences are understood, and your journey is honored. You'll connect with other lost moms who truly get it, learn practical tools to help you through those really hard days, and gain guidance from me and other guest speakers on the topics you're really wanting to learn. Each month, we come together for a learning workshop where we dive into topics like grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and nurturing your mind, body, and soul. It's a place to feel supported, to grow, and to prepare for the journey ahead without judgment, without pressure, and without long-term commitment. For only $22 a month, you can join when you need it most. If you're ready to feel seen, held, and understood, come join us. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/motherlikenoother. I hope to see you inside. Welcome back to the Rainbow Connection podcast. Today, I am sitting down with Danielle Kipp, a registered nurse, military spouse, and proud mom to two angel babies, Carter and Mackenzie. In today's episode, Danielle vulnerably shares her journey through early-onset preeclampsia, the devastating losses of her son and her daughter, and all the ways that she and her husband have found healing in the midst of their grief. She invites us into the sacred moments she had with each of her babies and the traditions she continues to honor them with. Some actually are really good ideas, and I think a lot of us will get some inspiration from. Danielle also lets us into her current path towards parenthood through surrogacy, which I know, again, so many of you have requested episodes featuring paths to surrogacy or people that are currently going through surrogacy. So I'm really looking forward to giving you a little glimpse into Danielle's story. Okay, now let's hear from Danielle. Hello, everyone. I am here with Danielle. Danielle, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the Rainbow Connection podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kristen. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Danielle and I are going to chat about her angel baby today and a little bit about their birth story. But before we do get into things, Danielle, why don't you share a little bit about you, who you are, whatever you feel like sharing with our listeners today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a 32-year-old mom. I have two children in heaven and unfortunately none here with me earthside. Outside of being a mom, I am a military spouse and I'm a registered nurse. We currently are living in the United Kingdom. My husband is active duty military in the Air Force, but we are actually originally from the States. We've lived sort of all over, but originally we're from North Carolina, and New York was our primary home base where we were before that. So just really excited to, kind of be moving around and exploring different parts of the world. Professionally, for my nursing career, I've always worked with high-risk pregnant women and also NICU babies. I've kind of seen the whole scope of the pregnancy maternal health practice, and it's been a passion of mine for a long time to help pregnant women, but especially after losing my children, I think it became a labor of love. It was something that I really wanted to advocate for families to have the best possible outcome they could have, but also for the families who did not have that outcome to connect them with resources to support them through their loss and through their healing.
Wow, that's so beautiful, Danielle. You and your husband both have such admirable careers.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
on behalf of all of us, thank you so
Of
much. We
course.
love nurses, and Danielle and I were talking about before we started recording about what the military life is like. And yeah, it is a different world. And we're so thankful that you guys have said yes to that.
Absolutely.
So, so why don't we jump in if you're feeling ready? I would love to hear about your beautiful baby.
Yeah, so I first got pregnant in 2021 with my son. It was a pregnancy that was very planned for, very wanted, and we were very, very excited to find out we were expecting. Throughout my pregnancy, I started to get pretty sick with symptoms that looked like preeclampsia initially, but I was very early in the pregnancy, and my OB at the time said, we don't typically ever see preeclampsia before 20 weeks, but it is, something we're going to continue to monitor. As the pregnancy went along, he was growing really well. Things looked really good, but my blood pressure was just kind of creeping up, on and on and on. So we ended up spending a little bit of time in the hospital around 20, 21 weeks or so, to hopefully help to stabilize my blood pressure some. And it was at that point that they determined that, yes, this is preeclampsia. We're going to treat it like it's preeclampsia. But for right now, things are stable and we don't exactly know when they'll take a turn. So we went home. We continued doing what we were doing. We were seeing the doctor weekly for appointments, and things were actually, for the most part, in terms of the baby, looking really good. Around the time of 23 weeks, I was um, at home and I had access to a fetal Doppler. And this was something that I had, my whole pregnancy. It actually brought me a lot of peace and relief throughout the pregnancy. But that day I sat down to check his heart rate and couldn't find it. And because of my history working with pregnant women, I knew that there was a chance that maybe he just wasn't in the most ideal position, or maybe he, was hiding behind the placenta or something to that effect. But I also knew the strong reality was that, something had gone wrong. So I called my doctor. She brought me in and we did an ultrasound. And I'll never forget the room that we were in. I'll never forget what I was wearing, what my husband looked like. And we sat there and she turned off all the lights, did the ultrasound, and just looked at us. And I knew in that moment that he was no longer living.
Hmm.
So we went to the hospital, and it was important to me to try and deliver him. The alternative was to undergo a D&E procedure, but I really did want to try to meet him because we were, more than halfway through the pregnancy. So because of my preeclampsia, they had to put me on magnesium. It was just part of the protocol of that process, and it made me incredibly sick. So I was kind of what I can only describe as kind of being like a wet noodle, in the sense that I had no tone in my body. I could barely speak, but I was able to understand everything as if I was normal. I just couldn't get the words out. So because I got so sick, my electrolyte levels started to get really off balance from all the fluid that they were giving me. But they had to keep giving me that fluid in order to prevent me from having the seizures related to the preeclampsia. So it got to the point after several hours overnight, I think it was about 36 hours, where I wasn't dilating, nothing was happening. And so I had to go for the D&E procedure. That procedure, in and of itself, was traumatic because I wasn't able to ever see my son, but was also traumatic because that day at the hospital, they were just very busy. And when I woke up from the procedure, I was supposed to be in post op. Um, but because of the things that were going on at the hospital with how busy they were, I woke up actually in the OR with my baby in a biohazard bag at my feet. And it was probably one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced in my life because I couldn't come to terms with the fact that nobody would take the time to, you know, maybe take him somewhere else or make it,
Danielle, I'm
yeah,
so sorry.
it was very difficult.
Was this the hospital you worked in at the time too?
It wasn't. It was a bigger hospital located like in the bigger city, not too far from where I lived. But we actually, aside from that part of the experience, had an incredible medical team from my OB to our nursing staff. Everyone was incredible. It was just that one OR experience that was difficult.
Now, was your husband there when you woke up?
He was not. So he was out in the recovery area where I was supposed to be. But they eventually moved me to him. And the one thing they did do for us that we asked for, which I will forever be thankful for, is they took feet prints of our son. And that was probably one of the things that I was able to take comfort in postpartum because it was the one piece of him I got to see. It made it feel like he was real and that this whole process wasn't just something that, didn't have any tangible evidence of. So
Mm.
we after his loss, his name was Carter. He yeah, he was it was a difficult grieving period for us because I think never in a million years did we think that it was possible to lose a baby after you pass your 12-week mark. And we never thought it was possible to get preeclampsia as early as I had it. And so it was just a difficult grieving period, but I think for both my husband and I, what was a driving factor to continue and to fight was the hope that someday we would be able to have a healthy child of our own. And so we, in that time of grieving, spent a lot of time reading pregnancy after loss books. We tried to connect with people, especially me on Instagram and in other places to find a group of people who could understand what we were going through. Because sometimes I think that when you experience loss, people mean really well and they do really nice things to help you and to grieve, but the people that really get it are the people that have also experienced it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was something that we, took a lot of comfort in.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you guys also have some difficulties too because you were moving around? Like, I don't know if you guys moved around during that time or not, but
Yeah, so we actually didn't have to move during that time. But I would say the difficulty especially lied in the fact that we had specifically chosen to live there because the lifestyle for him in the military would have been very compatible with starting a family. He had a non-deployable job, so we really took that time, that opportunity to have children, and then, it didn't quite work out the way we had
mm,
hoped. So after that time, we were told by our OB to wait at least a year to become pregnant, which was honestly a bigger heartache than I thought it was going to be.
that's surprising for me to hear too. Is that mostly due to the preeclampsia or
Yeah,
yeah?
due to the preeclampsia. And I think at the time I was like, I'm ready to try again. Let's, I really want this. Let's just, try again. But my OB was like, you have to give your body time to heal. You have to give, your heart time to heal. So we waited a year, and it was difficult to get pregnant the second time, but we did get pregnant again in the fall of 2023. And that time around, we were expecting a baby girl. And so we were, same thing with the pregnancy. They were watching me much more closely this time. And there was always a chance that preeclampsia could happen again, but there's really no way to know if it's going to until you're pregnant, that second time. And so we got pregnant again. Preeclampsia happened again.
Mm. Now, this time, did your doctors prescribe anything differently? Were you on baby aspirin or anything like that?
Yes, yep. So I took baby aspirin, and it was unfortunately didn't have any different outcome for us in terms of the way in which it was supposed to control the preeclampsia. So I I saw my doctor weekly, and it was a decision from the beginning that at 24 weeks, I would be admitted to the hospital to closely monitor me, closely monitor the baby, and kind of see what happens. And so we went into the hospital at 24 weeks, knew I already had preeclampsia, but we were feeling good. Baby was doing mostly okay. She was just a little bit on the smaller side. Um, and my first morning in the hospital, they took me for an ultrasound. And it was at that time that they told me her cord blood was flowing backwards instead of to her. So they brought me to labor and delivery, and they said, it's one of those things where we're going to kind of have to watch and wait to see what happens, to see how her heart rate is doing. And ultimately, it was decided that to give her the best possible chance at living, we needed to proceed with an emergency C-section. So I went for C-section. I was very hopeful, very excited to get to meet her. And she was born alive. She was just under a pound. And unfortunately, because of her size and because of, the limits in modern science, they were not able to find a tube small enough to intubate her with. So she lived for an hour, and I got to hold her. My husband got to hold her. And then she passed away in our hospital room, kind of looking out the window. And I'll never forget my husband saying to me, he said, I think she's gone. And we just, held her together and tried to soak up the time we could with her. And we had 2 really, really great days with her. One of our favorite memories, I think, looking back at the experience, was getting to have a family dinner, we called it. So we ordered in some Italian from a local restaurant, and we sat with her and we had a meal. And I think in comparison to the way in which my son was born, the experience that we had with her, even though she didn't survive, was ultimately healing in some ways, because when she came out, every person that came to visit us said, she looks just like you, Danielle. Like, she is your twin. And I really think it was one of those things where she brought us a sense of peace, because we finally got to know what our baby looked like. We got to put a face to what we loved so much. And to have that experience after what we had with Carter was really needed for both of us.
Well, I'm sure they looked very similar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we think so.
And you got that family time.
Yeah, we did. And it was, I think it was also good for my husband too, because I had, of course, had a concept of what a baby at that gestation would look like from working in the NICU. But I think for him, he never realized quite how small a baby could be and still look have everything that.
Little human, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, she was.
It's so different. It could be so different for our partners too, because like you always hear about how things kind of click for the partner once baby's born, right?
Yeah.
And because they don't get to hold the baby, they don't feel the baby. It's all conceptual to them.
Yeah.
Until the baby's here. So it's definitely not just him that's had that moment of, oh wow, like this is my baby.
Yeah, it was the best. And I think for me, getting to see him with the baby was also really reassuring, really positive, because he got to feel her move a few times in the pregnancy, but because she was so little, there was only so much he could feel. And so to see him hold her was the best. Yeah.
While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered space that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers. a place where you can truly be real, be held, and be reminded that you are never alone in this. Our fall cohort begins this September and enrollment is now open. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/the-haven. Inside the haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. Now, what did life look like for you guys after? Because now you had gone through twice. Yeah.
Yeah, so after we lost Mackenzie, life looked different because we knew at that point that there was not going to be an opportunity again for me to be pregnant. It just wasn't something that we were willing to risk. I think my OB was incredibly fair and helpful in explaining to us that continuing to get pregnant would really just continue to put my life at risk. She was very honest with us in the pregnancy that, there was equally a chance that our daughter could die, that our son could die, and that I could die. And I think for my husband and I, it was just one of those things where we said, you know what, we tried our best, we gave it our all, but we can't go through that pain again in that same way. And you know, we can't risk another life in the process. And so it was a hard pill for me to swallow because I think I had just always wanted to, be a mom. I'd always wanted to carry my baby. I love pregnancy so much. I love caring for pregnant women. And it was difficult to give up. But ultimately, through both losses, our driving factor to continue and to keep going was always, we want to have a family, we want to have children, we want to have a baby. And however we have to go about doing that, we're willing to do, even if it means giving up what we once thought the process was going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine how hard it was to process that and make that decision.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So what does I don't want to say moving forward because it's never moving forward, but what did your life look like in the next steps for you guys?
Yeah, so about a month or two after Mackenzie was born, we went through IVF to have my eggs retrieved. And we were very successful in that process, and we were able to make embryos, which was a big relief because I didn't want to, give up the chance of having kids altogether. So having embryos was really important for us. And we've now turned to, we're well into the process of surrogacy. So we have an incredible friend who is going to be carrying our baby for us. And
Wow.
yeah, we are over the moon to know that there are people out there who are willing to give families like us a chance and willing to give us a story that we've always longed to have, give us a life we've longed to have. And that was, I think, for us, a huge blessing because we are still going to get to be parents to a living child, but we'll always, honor the fact that we had children that came before this baby who helped us get to this point.
It's all part of your story, right?
It is very much.
Do you feel comfortable sharing with your listeners a little bit about where you're at in that surrogacy process? So you said you have a surrogate, which is wonderful. Do you guys have plans to transfer? I know like your husband is away right now, and like what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we do have plans to transfer very soon within the coming months. And I think for the first time ever, I don't feel anxious about pregnancy. I don't feel nervous. I just feel excited. And it's almost refreshing because I think with both of my pregnancies, especially my second pregnancy, I knew that there was always a chance that, things wouldn't work out. And while that still remains true in any pregnancy, I think to be able to know that, our surrogate has had healthy children herself and that she is in good health is monumental for being able to have trust in that process.
Sure.
It's just kind of refreshing for us.
I think a really huge thing is doing something different, right? I think when you're doing the same thing and you only know the one outcome, like, of course, your
Yes.
anxiety is going to be so high. Like, all you know is it ending this way. So sometimes when we introduce a new way, something different, it
Hmm.
could be like, okay, we're doing something about this. We're taking like action. So I totally understand, and I'm so glad that you feel excited, and you
Yeah.
should feel excited, right? That's how you should feel when you're heading into pregnancy.
Yeah,
And we'll definitely need to have you come
I
back
know.
and share that journey too, because you're definitely not alone in that journey as well. I don't know if you've gotten connected with other moms that are going through surrogacy. Yeah, what has that experience been like? Because that you've already kind of niched, like there's like we talked about even before we started recording, like the lost community is it's bigger than we realize, but it's still quite small, right? In
Hmm.
terms of understanding. But now that you've even gone even smaller into the surrogacy route, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, so it's been a good experience so far. We are, I think for both of us, we just feel, um, we feel like it's hard to wrap our minds around the fact that there are people so willing and so compassionate and so
Mhm.
giving to grant a family a gift like this. And there's so many people that go through surrogacy because they're in very similar situations to us. They've experienced loss or they have health problems of their own, or, they just weren't able to carry a child for whatever the reason. And it's nice to know that there are people who get it, who understand that it's a sacrifice, but it's also a gift. And um,
Such a
such a gift. And it I think for my husband and I, there's no amount of thanks that we'll ever be able to give our surrogate for just, stepping up and offering to care for our child and to love our child through pregnancy in the same way that we would. And that's something that we're, very, very thankful for.
Mhm. Now, if we have any listeners right now that are debating about surrogacy themselves or starting that process, is there anything that you would recommend? Any advice that you would have to share?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can say is just kind of, try to stay patient through the process and try to make sure that your heart is really connected with your surrogate, because I think when you are able to connect with somebody and you genuinely know without a doubt that they would, be the right person, it makes the process 1,000 times better. Because you know that you know who they are, why they chose this path. And when you know that and they know you and where you came from and your story and what led to this, I think that it creates kind of the perfect relationship for having a good outcome in terms of trusting one another and knowing what the other person needs or doesn't need to help each other feel better through the process.
It's so true. I would really love to hear how you and your husband, how does it look for you guys to honor Carter and Mackenzie? What does life
Yeah.
look like with them in your life?
Yeah, so we do a couple of different things. So both of our kids were born in February. Ironically enough, they were both born the same month. So our son was born on February 9th, and our daughter was born on February the 3rd. And so every February, we do something for their birthdays, whether it's take a trip together. This February, we moved over the ocean to England. But every year,
No big deal.
yeah, small move. But every year we try to do something in their honor, something to specifically dedicate time for them, to honor their lives, to talk about them, to celebrate them. And so that's something we've always done. Um, Additionally, we try to find ways, just regular everyday ways to kind of continue their legacy. So engage in random acts of kindness. We try to do things, donate to different charities, donate to different organizations who honor families that have experienced loss, or donate to people in honor of our children. But one of my favorite things that we do every single year is we adopt, and we're part of the Adopt an Angel program every Christmas. So it's basically a way that every Christmas different agencies get together and identify families who might not have the means to have a Christmas for their child in the way in which they would like to. So every
Mm.
year we pick a name off of a tree, and we try to alternate each of our kids every other year. So we pick the age that one of our kids would have been that year, and go shopping for that child. So this past year, we picked a child who was 2 in honor of our son Carter, and we went shopping for a 2-year-old, and it was really fun because we don't often get to, you know, see what, other 2-year-olds want or other 2-year-olds need. And it's a way for us to help feel connected to them without, having them here. And so we get to make someone else's Christmas for, that child
Mm.
be special. And I think that is something we'll probably do forever, because we just like doing it, but it also helps us feel connected to the kids.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much. And it not only like helps you stay connected to Carter and Mackenzie, but you're also blessing this other 2-year-old, right? It's just Carter's name and that love spreading. And I just love
Yeah.
that so much. I know so many moms are going to be like, oh, that's such a good idea. I need to
Yeah.
start doing that. Even me, I'm like, oh, we got to do that. That would be so special. And I think it's so nice too, just being able to, I think like you always remember in your mind how old your baby would be, but like putting context to it, being like, oh, I would be buying maybe this Christmas. I could see how that would be really beautiful and really healing. I
Yeah.
love that idea.
It's fun. It's fun for
Mm.
us. Today, actually, when you had sent me the dates that we would be able to talk and meet up, long before I had my kids, 12 was always my lucky number. It was just, I was born on the 12th. I've just always loved the number 12. And it wasn't until pretty recently that my husband and I realized that the 2 kids' birthdays, when added together, are 12.
3 and 9.
3 and 9. So I picked the 12th today to meet with you as kind of a way to, you know, think of them.
I love that synchronicity. It's the universe,
It
right?
is.
It's like
It is.
one of those little winks from your baby being like, I'm here and they're here right now with us too. So I love that so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Now, Danielle, before we close things off, I'm wondering if you have any last minute advice or tips on a way just to love someone in your life that might be experiencing this kind of, profound loss, the loss of losing your baby.
Yeah. So, when we lost both of our children, we had a strong community of friends and family who rallied around us and who loved us through that initial period of grief. But one of the things that really stuck with me and made a big difference is we had a family member who sent a card to our house about 6 or so months after the loss of one of our children. And she had recently experienced a loss of her own. And when she reached out to us through that card, it just said that she remembered that when her loved one passed away, that life sort of moved on for everybody and life, kept going. But for her, she was still very much in that place of, I'm missing my loved one. Life isn't the same anymore. And so she just wanted us to know through that card that she was still thinking of us and that she was
Hmm.
still remembering our babies. And I think that was something really powerful and unexpected that meant a lot to both my husband and I, because we, um, you know, we missed our kids still. It was still a very much everyday part of our life. And to know that we were still thought of really made a huge difference. And I think knowing that family is accepting of, grief and where you're at is important in the healing process.
So beautiful. It's such an easy way to show that you care so much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good way to show up for someone. Well, Danielle, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. I love hearing about your babies. You are such a beautiful mom. You can tell you're such a loving and caring and beautiful
Oh,
person.
thank
And
you.
I just feel so honored chatting with you. And I'm going to be thinking about you as you enter in this new journey of surrogacy. And we're going to have you back and tell us all about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Kristen.
You're most welcome. Danielle, thank you so much for sharing Carter and Mackenzie with us today. Your honesty, your strength, and your love, I know, will undoubtedly touch so many hearts and remind other lost moms that they are never alone. We appreciate you, and not just for sharing your story, but for also all your hard work as a NICU nurse taking care of our babies. I really want you to know we see you so much. If you're listening and walking through your own journey after loss, I hope Danielle's story offered you both comfort and courage. And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, I would ask that you please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, take care of your heart. Your baby is never forgotten, and neither are you. If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.